This Never Throw in the Towel podcast episode is brought to you by UKIM Occupational Health and Wellbeing. They are a healthcare service company with a clear commitment of breaking the stigma and breaking the silence around conversations about mental health. Their mission is to try and tackle the problem with the nation's sick economy with the aim to keep people in work. I just want to say a huge thank you to UKIM for getting behind the Never Throw in the Towel podcast, which is conversations around mindset, mental health, and physical health, with the message of resilience, never giving in, and never throwing in the towel. Our aim is to help and inspire. Thank you. This is the first Never Throw in the Towel podcast. This podcast is going to be about mindset, mental health, physical health, getting through adversity, never giving in, never throwing in the towel. With this podcast, we are hoping to inspire people. We are looking to get people on our show who can help people, who can inspire. And we're all about a positive mindset. And that's the main aim, really, for the podcast. We want to inspire people, and especially people who are maybe struggling or just kind of looking for some help, some stuff on mindset. So this is it, Craig.
Here we are.
How did this happen, eh?
I don't know.
How did this project?
Another one of your crazy ideas that has been brought to life, and here we are. So yeah, it's absolutely great to be here. I want to thank our sponsors, UK Independent Medical and HubSpot Media, for helping us get to this point as well. And yeah, let's take it right back to the beginning. Anth, where did this all come from? How did it all start?
So I've shared this story quite a few times now, but I don't think I'll ever get tired of sharing this story, because the Never Throw in the Towel project strapline, keep on living. Those were the words that I used at the end of my grandma's eulogy. So those words just mean, like, they sit home with me so much. And I used the words never throw in the towel, keep on living at the end of my grandma's eulogy, and it was describing her attitude towards life. And it was describing her attitude towards getting stage 4 cancer. And I said she never threw in the towel, and she'd done everything she possibly could to keep on living. And after the funeral, something mad happened, really. A gentleman came up to us outside the church who I'd never met before, and he was crying, and he thanked me for the eulogy, and he said, your grandma was absolutely amazing woman. And the same night, I was feeling all, obviously high emotions were flying, because my grandma, the woman who brought us up, she'd passed away. And I was just kind of sitting, chilling on the couch at my mum's house, and I had a message request on Facebook, and it was the same bloke who spoke to me outside the church. And he sent me this big long message, just sharing with me that he was in a really, really dark headspace, massively struggling with his mental health. He'd been to seek professional help. But listening to the words in my eulogy, and the words that really stood out for him, that about my grandma never throwing in the towel, massively hit home with him. And that's kind of like nudged him to keep on going and keep on living. So when that happened, it was just like, there was just like a flick switched. And based on all my experiences that I've went through in my life, being in a high, having highs, having lows, being a barber, talking to men for a living, I've experienced kind of in my professional life lads who were really struggling. It just lit a fire where I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start talking about this topic, about men's mental health, male suicide. It was like there was a burning passion to just try and talk about the subject. So I actively just started actually going on to Google and I wanted to speak on this topic. And I kind of just started typing in guest speaker on men's mental health, guest speaker. And I messaged a few agents and no one, didn't hear anything back. And then just randomly, this woman got in touch with me, who I actually done pantomime with years and years ago, and I hadn't spoken to her for years. And she lives in London, and she was doing one of her projects in Newcastle. So she got in touch and said, "Oh, would you be on the panel for this show? And obviously, you're local. I'd like to get you on a panel." And I was like, "All right, okay. So what's it about?" She was like, "Well, it's mainly, I've got a load of guest speakers, but I'd like you to be on the panel at the end." And I just said, "Can I be a speaker?" And she was like, "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" I was like, "Men's mental health. I'm a barber. I've got a story here that I really want to share, and I want to kind of get out there." And so she kind of got back to us, and she said, "I'm going to have you as a speaker. What do you want to call your talk?" And it was wasn't prepared. It was just like the words about my grandma, never thrown in the towel. I said, "Yeah, it's going to be called Never Throw in the Towel." And then I kind of turned up there, proper nervous, public speaking, never done that before. And I'd done it. And kind of the feedback that I got from people who listened to the story and stuff, it gripped so many people, especially there was a majority of women in the audience, but there was a few blokes, but after the talk, a few blokes kind of literally came up to us and give us a cuddle.
So you knew then?
I kind of came away from that thinking wow, that was quite deep, that. And I could just see actually this can kind of I want to continue doing this. Mm-hmm. It just felt right. It felt meaningful, and it and just kind of it also helped me because it was kind of my grandma was such a massive part of my life. It also kind of helped me, and I was kind of just primarily sharing the story about my grandma, really. And then it's just kind of grew and grew and grew.
Yeah. And I've seen the growth, and I've seen how it's all changed, but ultimately they're powerful words, and it's a powerful message. And I'm not surprised, the guy resonated with it at your grandma's funeral. And I'm not surprised the guys in your first speaking appearance, they resonated with it and they thought it was powerful. Because the topic is massive at the moment, and there's so many men out there struggling. And I always admire the fact that you've got to where you've got to with this project, because loads of people have ideas and loads of people want to change the world. And they can sit there and talk about it in the pub or at home with the wives. But not very many of them get up and do it. And one thing you've done is you've got up and you've done it. We say this every now and again, and we maybe shouldn't, but you've grabbed it by the balls.
Aye.
And you've really stood up and said, "I'm going to talk about this topic." So following the guest speaking, obviously you've been quite successful at that, and you've had lots of good talks. Do you want to share any of them? Share some of your favourite?
Well, you touch on kind of talking about and stuff. It's all of it just comes from passion, and it just comes from kind of actual life experiences that have kind of led me to this point. You can it's called imposter syndrome. Sometimes you can get that. I'm just a barber, really. I'm just a barber who cuts hair and talks shit most of the time. So in terms of speaking about it and getting up and talking, sometimes that can be daunting. Sometimes that can be public speaking to a room full of strangers, especially when majority of them are a bunch of blokes.
Yep.
Can be daunting, but it's always drowned out. That's always drowned out by the passion and the importance of actually, like you said, taking, grabbing the situation by the balls. This with men, especially men's mental health. It's the talks are for everyone. It's literally me talks do lean towards men, and I think we've got to kind of, considering how much of a problem it is, it still doesn't get spoke about that much. There's still not that many things. When I had the idea of when I started kind of like having ideas, actually going to different workplaces and doing talks on it, I was like contacting friends who are in industries that there's a lot of men, and I would ask kind of like, what do they have in place for men's mental health? And majority of them would like, there's a woman on here, there's a woman on HR, there's a woman on HR, or we've got someone in HR.
And they're usually just a mental health first aider, aren't they, to deal with anything after it's happened.
Yeah, and I think, and don't get me wrong, I think there's the workplaces are doing some great stuff. They absolutely are. But I do think the more and more needs to be done. And this is why, this project that me and you are doing together, I truly believe that we are actively trying to tackle this problem and this issue, especially with the retreats as well that have incorporated as well.
Just before we touch on the retreats, there's a bit of a uniqueness to your talks, isn't there? Don't you take a barber chair along and some shears?
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
Well, for me, again, just from my experience of being a barber, I think the barber chair might it be the best place for a bloke to open up and talk naturally.
Yeah, could be.
I think it is, I think for my experience, I think it is. So just taking my role as a barber, when I do my open and honest talk, stroke presentation, then after that talk, followed by the one-to-one barber chair experience, where you've got that one-to-one, it just naturally leads into talking.
So what happens? You do the talk,
yeah,
and then the men listen. And obviously, if there's any men in the crowd that have been touched by your talk or are going through a bad time or have done, the one-to-one gives them a chance to open up.
Yeah.
They come forward to say, cut me hair, but really they're asking for a chat.
Yeah, well, it just depends really. It's kind of if I get booked in somewhere, it's the talk and the barber chair. And the barber chair, it's a good subtle way of introducing talking, because a lot of blokes, not everyone, but a lot of blokes, they don't really want to be forced to talk.
Yeah.
So if I kind of done the talk and then it was like, come and see me if you've got a problem.
Yeah.
You might not get a lot of blokes who actually want to come and see us afterwards because it's a bit forced, or they might feel a bit self-conscious, or they might feel a bit weak, or whatever. They'll not come. But if you just say, actually, you're going to get a free haircut, you can come in and get a haircut. They might just want a haircut.
Yeah,
but actually listening after the talk that I've done, it actually gives them a nudge to go, you know what, he's just shared his experiences, and kind of like I'm actually going to start sharing my experiences, and them conversations just happen naturally. And so far, it works perfect. It absolutely works perfect, because, like I said, the barber chair, it's not forced. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, come in, sit in the chair, cut your hair, and then we'll just start chatting. The chatting will happen naturally.
And you describe yourself, what is this? Poor man's psychologist?
Well, yeah, I think that's what, I think, it's not just me. You probably, if you get any hairdresser, any barber, a beautician, they'll probably have the same thing. It's that one-to-one. You get your clients kind of tell you that if you've got a client who is a long-standing client, that relationship, that bond, that confidentiality, that trust that you build over time with a client is a very unique friendship.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of my clients, we only have a relationship just in that chair.
Yeah.
We won't engage that much. Some of them I'm good mates with, but some of them might just be kind of like, we'll talk in the chair, but actually they'll tell me stuff that they don't tell anyone else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's that kind of like, the barber chair is that safe place, kind of just that safe place to talk. The kind of, you might be outside their friendship group where they might not want to tell their friends because it could be gossip. Whereas, like, nothing leaves the chair if it's important and they want to kind of keep it to themselves. Nothing leaves the chair.
So you got the guest speaking and the barber pop-up flying, and you've had some great clients recently, and that's been going really well for you, I know. But I could be wrong in saying it, your favourite part of the project, would I be right in saying, is the retreats?
Yeah.
But that come out of nowhere. I mean, I got a text one day from you saying, what you doing Sunday morning at 9 a.m. in December? Do you fancy going for a walk and bring your swimming trunks? And it's at Hampsley Forest. And I was like, Christ, where did the idea come from to create men's retreats?
Well, it was actually in November, not December, because Movember, the month of men's mental health. So I'll always kind of, I'll do summit for Movember being a barber. So last November, I decided to do free haircuts on a Tuesday for anyone who wants to talk. And I kind of said, look, at the barber chair's great place to talk. If anyone needs to,
that's great, by the way.
Yeah, come and see me. I'll give you a free haircut. And then the other idea I had is I wanted to do just another just a little mini retreat, because for me, kind of out in nature, physical exercise, it might be one of the best medicines going for your headspace.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of geared the retreat probably selfishly around all the stuff that I like doing. So I'd done a walk, which would obviously naturally lead to talking. I'm a huge boxing fan, so we done boxing, and then I was going to have a cold water dip at the end, but
freezing.
Yeah, very, very cold. And obviously me, who's done cold water, cold water swimming quite a lot. I'd been on a cold water retreat and stuff. I knew the importance of breath work as well, and done a lot of research on breath work. So that's what it was. It was like walk and talk, bit of boxing, exercising, breath work, cold water dip. And there was only nine lads who kind of signed up to doing it. And to be honest, I was a little bit it was probably a bit of ego. I was like, that's not a very good turnout, that. It's not the best turnout. And I'd never done it before, so I wasn't sure whether it was a good idea. And I was actually kind of thinking about, should I just kind of pull the plug on it and just say, if someone's come up, can't do it.
Yeah.
But there was a bloke and two of his sons whose hair I cut, who'd signed up to doing it. And the dad actually kind of messaged us saying, really looking forward to this retreat. Like one of my sons, he actually needs it. He actually I think it'd be really good for him because he's not been in a good headspace at all. So that was like, all right, I have to do it now. Like I can't let these down. Like they're looking forward to doing it, and I've committed to doing it. So I was like, right, no matter what the turnout is, we're doing it. And obviously I'd reached out to you to come, and we done it. And it was meant to just be a one-off where, it was, like I said, it was just meant to be a one-off, but all of us who done it in the WhatsApp group were like, that was absolutely class.
Yeah, it was.
Where, like, it was so good. And obviously you'd you'd heard people sharing stories and stuff, and it was like, well, when's the next one?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think, if I'm right in thinking, I think me and you messaged again, and we
just going back to the retreat. I mean, I was a bit like, you know.
you were like, why have you dragged me here on the Sunday morning?
Sunday morning, 9 a.m. And, you know, it was freezing. And I was like, I was wrapped up for this walk. Within 15 minutes of the walk, a guy I'd never met before opened up to me about, you know, maybe his struggles and how he'd got through them, and speaking to you in the barber chair, and how the haircut made him feel like $1 million, but it was more the fact that he'd got a chance to speak and he felt like he could open up to you. And within 15 minutes of the walk, you know, I had a guy there opening up to me, and it was kind of like, there's a reason behind all of this, and that's just made it all worthwhile. Just that one guy being able to talk, and I wasn't even a part of it. It was yours at that point. I was an attendee, and then we did a bit of boxing, which, you know, I've been in the ring once, you know, and I enjoy my boxing, but I'm a spectator. But I enjoyed that bit, and then I'll be honest, cold water, I thought, I can do this. You know, I thought, yeah, no problem. I was the first one stripped off, and I was the first one walking in. The videos there. Wow, how wrong I was, you know, and I took the breathwork seriously, but I was like, you know, I probably should have done more. And I sat there, and all I remember is, Grainger, get down. Grainger, get down. Get your shoulders in. For 3 minutes, I am freezing in this lake. But I walked out, and wow, the feeling for the rest of the day. Like, I was on a high for the rest of the day. And we were all straight in the WhatsApp group. That was mint. You know, it was great. Are we doing it again? And then, as you say, you reached out just to meet up, have a coffee, and talk about the project. And then, do you want to continue how that went?
Well, I think I didn't. It was you who said this could go big. To be honest, I didn't. I was not kind of planning on, you know, this turning into a full project.
Yeah.
And you were saying that this, you obviously seen some of that I didn't see, to be honest. Probably it was like you kind of said this could go really big, and then I think, you know, we were like, right, let's do this together. And then, like, get involved. Obviously, you know, I knew what type of lad you were. You used to obviously work for me when I had Mr. Hutton's, and like, you were literally kind of like the perfect member of staff. Just the work ethic, you know. I always kind of seen that. So I always thought, if I've got you on my side, you are a doer, and you're very organised, and you've got a lot of skill sets that I haven't got.
And vice versa, you know.
Yeah.
You're an idea as a creative guy.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
And then so then it was like, right, let's let's do it. And then obviously the second one that we done, there was 31 blocks turned up.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, from 9 to 31, it was like, wow, this is like,
can you
this is
remember
a bit
the
of a
planning
squad
that went into it as well? You know, going back and reviewing the walk, finding a new area for the boxing under the trees. And it was like, you know, you're not going to sit on your laurels. You're going to elevate it. You're going to make it better. And you didn't. Obviously, 31 turned up, and that was the one with the real picture, wasn't it? In front of the waterfall, where I think you first come away and realised, you know, I've got 30 blokes in the water cheering at the end.
Yeah. That was like the camaraderie from that day was unbelievable. Like the obviously the 9 was absolutely amazing as well. But when you kind of like had them types of numbers turn up, you know, that camaraderie that we built, it was something special.
Yeah.
I could kind of feel like, whoa, this is good. And then, and obviously the feedback of afterwards, kind of like the message that we had of you know, some of them just wanted to come out for a good day out. It looked good. Some of them were friends who were just kind of supporting me. Some of them actually were struggling and really needed it.
Yeah.
Really, really needed it. So getting kind of them lovely messages of showing that you're actually helping. Again, that was just kind of like just more nudges of like, this is absolutely, you know, this is needed what we're doing, and what we're doing is really good.
Yeah.
And we're onto something here, and it's absolutely needed. It's absolutely needed.
But even the people who turn up and they're not struggling, they're taking a preventative action from
absolutely.
not getting, you know, mental health struggles because they're getting out into nature. They've been able to talk to other people, and they're actually showing support to some of the other people that attend. So they're taking a preventative measure anyway by coming along. They're less likely to be affected by mental health because they're getting out and being a part of something. And then there was something else I was going to touch on, but after that one, obviously there was a couple of complications with location, so we had to change location, and then there was the big one, wasn't there?
Yeah. Like I said, none of this was a plan. So we kind of like I was just kind of in the mindset of like, well, I'm not charging anyone, and I'm basically just getting a bunch of blokes who I'm just going to take a bunch of blokes out, and we're going to all go on a walk, have a talk, do some exercises, and then jump in some cold water. But and obviously then the numbers, because the car park wasn't that big, and then I think it was we needed to get some form of license or something in place. But it was something like that. But and then ITV got in touch and saying, you know, we've seen what you're doing,
and that's where social media is good, because it was the shares that the second retreat went so big that it did get the exposure, and obviously ITV got in touch.
Yeah, and we done it at an amazing venue, Keppenuk, which is just local to Dalton, and that was again when we seen that there was like 72 blocks turned up, where there was literally just cars and cars pulling in. And again, we didn't have an Eventbrite set up there, so we had an idea that the turnout was going to be good, but we didn't exactly know how many was coming. So then, you know, to see that amount of blocks, you know, turn in such a short space of time, and then obviously we've got a documentary getting done on it as well. Just seeing it grow is just been a magical journey, really. And you know, like I said, it continues. Then we've went on to doing women's retreats, and then we're kind of doing more men's retreats, and then kind of leading up to actually, if we set up a charity, and then we have other ambassadors of different areas around the Northeast doing Never Thrown the Towel, and just darting that all over, like, and just making it bigger, building a community, building a brotherhood with doing all that, breaking the stigma, breaking the silence, and like tackling this problem that we have. Like, it's so amazing to be part of this journey. Like,
and I'll agree. You know, ever since I joined and come on with you, I've had an amazing time, but it's because of the people that we've been able to help that I've been able to have an amazing time.
Yeah.
And where we are now is we are trying to get all of the infrastructure into place. You know, there's a lot of things that we're doing in the background that people don't see, with regards to setting up the charity, you know, going through all the legal processes, and it is time consuming, but we are getting there, and we do have plans to, as you say, make it bigger, go to new locations. And I don't think we'll stop at the Northeast.
Absolutely not, no.
I think we'll go, you know, throughout England, Wales, Scotland. You know, I think there's a huge opportunity there.
Yeah.
And we've said we're going to make it a bit like the Vitality Park Run, where there's volunteers everywhere, and we'll need to put them through some sort of training, but that's where the charity will come in to play.
Yeah.
And we can have these events, free events as well. You know, we can have these running across the country and really spread the word and spread the message.
Absolutely.
You know, so what's next?
What's next? I mean, we just keep on marching on, really. Just keep on marching on. Keep on, just keep on living. I think once we get because you know this yourself, we've kind of like we've had struggles kind of like once it started getting big as numbers, we needed to have more things in place. We needed insurance. We needed money for boxing gloves. A lot of the guys had no equipment. They had no boxing gloves. So we had to fund that, get that sometimes money from out of our own pockets. Then we had to try and set up a Just Giving page just simply to get some money in so we can kind of continue doing it, because we kind of, we didn't want to charge. We could have charged, we could have turned it into a business. I think, people would have like happily paid, but I kind of I thought initially, I just thought, you know what, you don't want to like capitalize on people struggling, on men, like, on men's mental health. You don't really want to capitalize on that. So it just kind of sat right, just not charging.
Yeah.
And then I'm a big believer in an act of kindness has a ripple effect of good. So, ultimately I thought, I think you always get it back if you do something nice, if you do something kind. And I just thought, let's just continue doing them for free. It'll go massive.
Yeah.
It'll go huge, and I'll probably get benefits from it going huge as well. Do you know what I mean? So it was a win-win really, and all this is fun to me as well.
Yeah.
Like literally me walking around out in the forest, doing a bit of boxing, bit of breath work, and then having a cold water dip. That's fun to me. That's literally fun to me.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely love it.
I live for it every month.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So what's next?
Where we at now, and what was the reason behind a podcast? I know we both mentioned it and both agreed it was something we wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, I think, it's trendy now, isn't it, to have a podcast? Do you know what I mean? Every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got a podcast now. Do you know what I mean? So we're jumping on the bandwagon eventually. Maybe he's a bit late to the party, but this was the one time. I've obviously had a little bit of a profile many years ago with the Big Brother stuff and all that. So podcast would maybe be something that I could do, because I've done loads of interviews and been in front of camera and all that type of stuff. But this is when it kind of really, really lent itself to actually, I think there could be some huge value of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Because the podcast, it's all about mindset, mental health, getting through adversity, never giving in, never throwing in the towel. And I truly believe if we just continue talking about the subject, actively trying to break the stigma and sharing stories, and some of the guests that we've got on sharing their stories, and I think there's a lot of hope you can get from hearing a story.
Yeah.
So especially if you're struggling,
it goes back to your talks as well, though. You get speaking when you do them, people get hope from your story, and then they come and speak to you one-on-one. This gives us a platform to spread the word wider. Right now we're stuck in the Northeast because we can't expand as fast as we want on the retreats, but we're aiming to do it. But this allows us to
Yeah.
be spread, not even the UK, across the world, you know.
Yeah.
And
And if it's just
struggling
one
with anything-
person,
exactly,
just
you know.
one person.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not in a good headspace, you can think that it's you're never going to get out of it. Do you know what I mean? But just hearing a story of someone who's been in a dark place or been in a lot of adversity, and them coming through it, them words can be golden to someone who's not in a good headspace or in a dark place. Those words can be absolutely golden. And that's why I think it's so important to kind of share your story, actually, and just open up. If you've not been in a good headspace or whatever, I think that's actually good to share, because that can help the next person.
Absolutely.
The people can get hope from that. And that's, and it's not, we don't want the podcast to be not doom and gloom, because, it's a raw topic.
Yeah.
Suicide. It's a very raw topic. Still has a huge stigma about it and men's mental health and stuff. But, it's we're coming from like a fighting spirit and like coming back, tackling, fighting the problem. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I've lived the project firsthand, haven't I? So you sent a text out as a mate. I'm putting this on the retreat on. And you didn't know I'd been going through a bit of a dark spell myself, faced a bit of adversity last year and the year before. And I was okay. But I wasn't thriving.
Yeah.
And when I got involved in the project, I started living the project. I got back into fitness, back into the gym. I bought myself a cold tub, to jump out the back because I wasn't being defeated by the cold water. And I started getting in that every day. And in the first meeting we had over the coffee in Darton Town Centre, I opened up to you. And I've known you for about 8-9 years now, and obviously I work for you at the bar. But I think after the bar, we kept in touch here and there.
Yeah.
There was a few things. And I opened up to you in the cafe, told you about some of the struggles I'd been having.
And I didn't obviously know that there was anything going on with you.
You didn't. And I mentioned this earlier on this week to you. I'd actually spoke to a couple of my friends about it. And it wasn't the best feedback I'd got from them. It was like there wasn't an intent to listen. And there's two ways you can go after that. And I think one way is you really feel like you've got to hold it in because nobody wants to listen and nobody cares. But I didn't. I opened up to you, and it was because of the project I opened up to you. And then I realised this is my person. This is my person. And I'd opened up to my current girlfriend about a few of my struggles. But I found it difficult, before I did with you. And I opened up to you about everything, and I have since with Joe. But I think what people need to know is that the first person you speak to or the second person you speak to might not be the right person for you to speak to. And they might not be able to offer you the advice, or they might not have been there. But don't stop talking. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to colleagues.
Yeah.
You never know what somebody's been through, like you didn't with me.
Yeah.
And you opened up to me about your story and what you'd been through. And I could resonate so much with it.
Yeah.
And living the project this year, I'm thriving. You know, this project is amazing, and we've done a lot of work to get it to this point, and I absolutely love the retreats. Every month I live for that Sunday, to get out and to see new faces, to see old faces coming back.
Yeah.
People, the journeys that people go on, some of the guys that have come from the second or third retreat and how they are now, the difference. So for me, it's been a massive boost for me this year,
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for that as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, I don't think you can, it's when I had Mr. Hutton's, I was like, I was the boss. And I think it's so much fun doing something together, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of like, we're on the phone constantly, and we've got such a such similar work ethic, very different skill sets.
Yeah.
But definitely the same work ethic, and just to bounce ideas off as well is so good as well. And like I said, I couldn't have done this without you as well. So I'll happily fire the credit straight back at you as well, mate. And it's and it's just that. Again, I might sound repetitive in what I say, but I just think you've got to be with one of the main messages of the project is talking is a strength. It's not a weakness.
Yeah.
Adversity isn't weakness. It's a strength, because the journey's not over. You can always come back.
Yeah.
If you're not in a good place, the journey is not over.
That's the epitome of this podcast.
You can come back.
Yeah.
If you just, and especially if you just implement the right things. If you implement the right things, having them small wins, you can come back. And that's what it's all about, really. Talking is a strength, not a weakness. And especially us blokes, the Northeast, I think we can all agree the Northeast is a great place to live.
Yeah.
I love the Northeast. People who are from the Northeast, people from the Northeast are very passionate about that's where they're from. But the Northeast is the worst region in the UK for suicide. And, with males, three quarters of reported suicide are males. They're the facts. And, you've got man up, man's man of the house, alpha male. The list goes on. All these words integrated now into our society, into our vocabulary. And these are the kind of the things why we kind of like blokes don't want to talk.
Yeah.
Because they think it's a weakness. But I think because we don't talk, that's why the statistics are so bad for men. It's the biggest killer.
Yeah.
It's the biggest killer it's way up past 50 now. It's recently I seen it's like 55 or something, where it's biggest killer. So as much as there's a stigma about talking about mental health, and it's almost trendy now. Oh, mental health, mental health. But surely, men's biggest killer, we have to be more knowledgeable about, and we have to talk about it more. Surely,
yeah.
Because there's a thing that I say in one of my talks. I think it's a great analogy, and it's like, imagine if there was a huge wild animal, a huge monster out there, killing men globally, every day, every minute. Imagine if there was. That would be all over the news. It would literally be all over social media. We need to stop this monster. There's this big wild monster killing men.
Yeah.
Actually, the big monster and them stats are suicide. And we've got to treat it like a monster. And actually it's worse than the big bad monster, because most of the time, a lot of the time, this monster is invisible. Mm-hmm. We can't even see it. And that's why a simple act of kindness, simple talking, that's why we've got to, sometimes look for signs, be more knowledgeable on it. And there's a quote, an act of kindness has a ripple effect of good. And it massively plays a part, especially like in the workplace. Because if you're nice to that person, that workmate, that person remembers. And then they're nice to the next person. And then they're nice to the next person. And then actually next thing you know, you've got a working environment that's a really nice place to work. And then bosses have impact from that, because people coming into work more, because it's a nice environment. So, yeah.
Yeah, going back to the stories and never giving in, we've got some phenomenal guests lined up who have truly inspirational stories where they've been at the bottom or they've been counted out.
Yeah.
And they've got back up and they've made it to the top of their game, or they've made it to the peak of happiness. Who's the first guest, Anth?
So I couldn't believe when this first guest, we've got Johnny Nelson, and I'm a huge boxing fan. And you know what? I was blown away and over the moon that Johnny said yes to doing the podcast, but I'm not surprised because he's hugely passionate on the topic, what we're all about, hugely passionate about getting through adversity. He's been in a dark place himself, never giving in. He's all about that. And, you know, they say never meet your heroes, but because I've watched so many videos on Johnny, being a huge boxing fan, but actually Johnny surpassed how I thought he was going to be. He was such a nice bloke.
Yeah,
and
was amazing.
And he was so inspiring, and he spoke so well on the topic. And yeah, just to land Johnny Nelson. But the thing is, you know what? It's just because the message is huge.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as Johnny seen what we were about and what we're trying to push, he was all over it. And he's on, I sent you the screenshot after you told me to get in touch with Johnny on LinkedIn. It was like, I'd love to.
Yeah. Be more than happy to do this, mate.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was a shock to us. How quickly he was.
He was all over it, yeah.
And it was a fantastic day we had. But the stories, the message, how powerful.
So inspiring.
You know, you've got to tune in for that.
Yeah.
You know, next week.
Yeah. Tune in and subscribe. I need to get used to that, don't I?
You do,
Tune in and subscribe.
But yeah, the podcast, it's not all doom and gloom. You know, we talk about the subject, but we're trying to enhance people's mindsets.
Absolutely.
And
from stories.
Yeah.
From
Spread
the
positivity.
Power. Like I said, the one thing that the words never throw in the towel and the words keep on living, it shows the power of words and the power of stories. And that's why we're doing the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that leads us nicely.
Oh.
Thank you.
Never throw in the towel.
Never throw in the towel.
Come on.
Keep on living.